and then we're gonna on YouTube. Um, cool. Okay. Well, thanks for joining, and thanks for taking time out and to come on the podcast. I had a pleasure of talking with you a couple of weeks ago, and I think it's gonna be an interesting conversation. There's gonna be a lot of stuff to learn from you, definitely, and explore, the new field that I haven't explored myself, like oil and gas industry and things to kind of, how data science is utilized in that industry. Um, so just to get started, do you wanna quickly introduce to our users who you are and about your journey?
Okay, can I introduce myself right now?
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Okay, okay. Thank you, Mitz, for the invitation. It was a very pleasant conversation we had earlier, and thanks everyone here. So, yeah, my name is Cainã. I usually say that my professional background can be split into academic and industry because I spent a lot of time, many years, doing academic research. I am a biologist. I took a master in science, cell biology, and then I took a PhD in bioinformatics. It's a field that unifies biology and computer science. You try to answer biological questions using computational resources, programming, handling large amounts of data, data analytics, and mostly statistical analysis. After that, I also took an MBA in data science analytics in Brazil. I'm a Brazilian, by the way. I'm based in Brazil. And after that, I changed a little bit of subject. I started working in the industry as a data scientist, and I have been loving working as a data scientist. That's what I like to do. And I have been doing it for the past 4 years and some months.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. Thanks for a brief introduction. Just like everyone else of us, you come from a different background, and then you venture into data science, right? So, the usual question I ask people is to, just to learn about their journey and how much they struggle to switch to transition from their own field into data science, right? So, do you want to tell us about how did you manage to transition from biology to data science?
Yeah, sure. I started getting interested about not specifically about data science, but the tech as a whole, during my master. But back then, I realized was not that happy anymore with biology. Uh, I lost my huge passion by biology just a bit, and then I started figuring out other fields that I like to work with. Um, and then I started building some basic websites, HTML, CSS, not real programming, but it was my first contact with the tech field. And then I thought, why not trying to combine both fields? I want to learn and to work with computer science, but I also have a strong background in biology, and I had a daughter already, so I cannot start all over. It would be very difficult for me. So I started searching for a field that unifies, combine both. That's bioinformatics, and so in my PhD, I got the experience with I learned how to program. I realized I was good at it. Fortunately, um, yeah, I was good at it, and I enjoyed so much. Having the power of asking the computer to do stuff for us it's amazing. And yeah, I think that fortunately, I found myself in programming, but transitioning from academy to industry, it was a little bit challenging because it works differently in both fields. But
Oh,
yeah,
so was R your first language that you learned? Because I know, bioinformatics, like when I worked in pharmaceutical industry, like R was the main thing, right? Because you work with statisticians and these people who mostly use R. So is that something
yeah,
that you picked up first?
Yeah, I started working R. In my PhD, I learned how to program mostly in R. By the end of my PhD, I started learning Python because uh, yeah, doing my search in the industry,
Yeah.
it's all Python. So okay, I need to learn it, and I actually enjoy it very much. But I still love, still fell in love with R, but I haven't been programming R for
Hmm.
years. All this time in the industry, I haven't programming in R anymore.
Can you tell us about any project that you did back then which combined both bioinformatics and data science?
Yeah, sure. Uh, Again, during my PhD, I worked with identifying signals of natural selection in indigenous people from Latin America. So I studied two particular regions, Amazon, the rainforest, Amazon, sorry, the Amazon rainforest and the highlands of the Andes. Both regions have, I mean, very challenging environment conditions for the people living back then without any technology, medicine, and so on. So we have the DNA of these people, and we have, of course, we have all ethical authorizations to work with it. And when we have this data, we analyze it using computer science. So we have a group of biologists, geneticists who collect this data, who analyze it, who provide the code, the genome of these people, and we have another people that was my laboratory where I work at that we analyze this data. So used R, mostly R in shell scripting to work with this large amount of data. And most of the analysis we have done is statistical. Some of them was very specific to the field, using a particular software created by mathematicians. Uh, but mostly it was statistical analysis, like checking if the null hypothesis, identify regions of the DNA that we have, find a outliers. For outliers detection is a good example because that's something that in this field that I worked at, that we aim to identify outliers. Of course, we try to reduce the noisy. We don't want to detect noisy data, but outliers were our target because an initial signal of a frequency of a gene in this population, but not in the nearby or ancestry populations, it is an indicator that this gene is important for the adaptation of these people in these places.
Got it.
But feel free to ask more questions about it or about the thing.
So I want to go back to your first official job of as a data scientist at Remissa Online. I picked that because you did some interesting projects. Mostly working on the forecasting time series projects. So do you want to tell us a little bit about the different projects that you worked on at that time?
Okay. When I worked at Mess Online, I worked mostly with forecasting and detecting. I work with churn analysis, but not the modeling yet, because then we have this goal of detecting forecasting to forecast if the amount of people we that our customers we're going to get in different segments.
Mm-hmm.
And for that, to have used simple linear models, actually. It was simple models, but it was effective. And we needed to control for a lot of stuff, mainly because it was during just started the pandemics. And also there are two major events in the back then, the pandemic, the COVID, and also a new partnership of Remessa Online with Nubank, is a huge bank here in Brazil. And it shipped the forecast like a lot. So it was hard to work with it. And yeah, so forecasting, classification models, I worked in RMS Online as well. And yeah, about RMS Online, I think that were my two main projects, the time series and classification.
So what was the main like problem that that you were trying to solve, or how did that help out the company actually?
Revised online.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the project that you were working on, like, how was that useful to the company in
Yeah.
general?
One of the goals, that's a huge responsibility, because one of the goals is to provide an expectation of new customers.
Mm-hmm.
And the goal of the company was to use this prediction to establish the goal of the marketing people. So if you're expected, for example, to have 100 customers naturally, so what about being more aggressive in marketing to try to get a higher number of new customers? So it's all about establishing the goals for the marketing people.
Okay. So you're using models to segment customers into different groups and then, help out marketing to see which group to target most
Yeah.
to use revenue. Right.
Yeah,
Interesting.
we had the segments already. We just provided different forecasting models for each of the pre-existing segments.
Right. And what were some challenge because time series forecasting, it's not easy, right? As compared
No.
to just doing like classical ML stuff. There's so many different challenges because of the temporal component, right? So what were some of the challenges that you were facing, and how did you like resolve those challenges?
Yeah, for me, for example, this particular event that has a huge effect of the model, we needed, there are some different techniques to deal with unusual patterns of the data. Once we know the reason for that, for example, the COVID, a new partnership with a new bank.
Uh-huh.
So, for example, one of the goals was to make a monthly prediction forecasting, and then for the months that we know for sure that there is a high impact of COVID, we just reduce this noise. So we for some case, I don't remember the official approach, but we tried two of them. One of them was to remove this point and to make an interpolation
Uh-huh.
so that it cannot affect it. Or we can also provide an exogenous variable to explain this particular period of time. So in this case, it's like a Boolean value for all the months, but in these months we have a true. It's in this case, it's going to cause overfitting, but only for this particular region of period of time. The rest of the forecast remains like okay for the prediction, because you just cannot have these huge outliers. We know it's not usual. It's not. There is a reason for that. It's going for sure. It's going to impact most of the models. At least linear ones are going to be impacted by outliers. So we
Uh-huh.
needed to solve this that way.
Was it a proof of concept sort of project, or like did you guys manage to deploy it in production, right? Because it has its own challenges, in development and deployment. So did you guys like manage to get it deployed?
Yeah, it was deployed. This project particular, I started it, I handled the project, but then I left this company. But I'm still a friend of my manager over there. And like 2 months later, after I quit, he told me, "Hey, Cainã, thanks for your effort. We just managed to place in production. Just want to thank you because you started it and so on." So I know it was in production. I'm not sure how they do it, but
Uh-huh.
back then they were using Databricks,
Uh-huh.
and probably like we have there was strong. Remax Online is a fintech, so different from other companies. Fortunately, we have a really good quality of data and structure of data, because it's a company that was born with the top technology. So it was easier to manage version control, Jenkins,
Uh-huh.
and so many things. So uh, probably a good repository that we have. They managed to provide a CI/CD and create a trigger to
Yeah.
work in it.
It's amazing, right? When you find such companies who already have things in place and know the value of it, because you don't find many companies like Companies are
Yeah,
rare.
definitely. No, definitely not. I think it's the only one that that I have that's real, truly organized in terms of data.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it. On your work, any questions?
Yeah. So tell us about like what further projects did you do? Like any interesting project you would like to mention? Also,
Yeah,
you were an instructor, right? Data science instructor at a company. Can you tell about
yeah.
that?
I forgot to mention about it. It's a freelancer job that I have, and I work as a freelancer teacher and mentor for 3 years, for about 3 years. Uh, and I have recorded some classes about clustering, about uh, I have recorded five entire models. Uh, One of them is statistical analysis. Another one is clustering. Another, uh, yeah, I just forgot. I have done so many things in 3 years, but I have recorded some classes, and currently I'm supporting some students in this company. That's a company, an edtech that has a data training program, and they hire some professionals to either record classes or to help students with their doubts, and mostly to help them with their project. They have partnerships with real companies, with real data, real projects, and we are kind of responsible to guide the students to have a successful delivery by the end. Um,
Did you
that's my.
teach one? Did you teach one-on-one or like was it a group
It's a
teaching?
group. It's usually a group. Yeah, it's a group classes.
So was there a particular challenge that you had? So I also teach, so that's why I'm asking. Like, but I teach one-on-one. So any special challenge that you faced like while teaching, like any particular thing that your student faced?
Yeah, there are. I haven't thought about it, but um, I think one that yeah, one challenge that I think mainly about recorded classes is that package changes too fast, right? Have seen some broken code, even though we have requirements .txt. So that's interesting because even some people provide the requirements, but only using I myself sometimes I do it. I provide the requirements only using the package that I know it's important, but sometimes for example, I had this issue previously. One of the recorded classes was about MLOps to deploy models, and I have used Streamlit, for example, to show how they can upload the model to the Streamlit cloud and so on. And I use a previous version of Streamlit, specifying the version, specifying all the package that they need to be imported, and they need to be imported. And but in this particular version of Streamlit, it requires Altair, the library, the data visualization library, and it is automatically store the latest version of Altair that's not compatible with Streamlit, even though we are specifying the previous version of Streamlit. So that's a lesson that I learned. So one of the challenges is about reproducibility with the students. We try to do everything like run the state and so on, but sometimes it crashes. It's kind of unavoidable. Um, Currently, I happen to students with we have a WhatsApp group, and it's quite challenging to help them without a meeting like this because I have to keep asking screenshots to identify the reason of the failure. Sometimes it's about, for example, some software is not in the path of the computer, so it depends. It's different from Windows, Ubuntu, Mac, and that's the most challenging thing. And other than that, I got about the lesson itself. I think that didactic is very important. It's very challenging as well. That's something that I try to improve myself, improving it uh, a lot of as much as possible. But you know, every student have their own pace to learn, and every student have their strengths and their weaknesses, and we need to identify it and go that's why I think it's perhaps easier one-on-one because we can identify it. But when you have a group, it's different to we have students in different levels, right? It's difficult to come up if I go to specific, some people is going to like it. Okay, it's advanced, that's awesome. Some people is going to get lost, and the other one, either, it's complicated.
So do you like teaching better or being a professional data scientist better?
I like teaching better, I think. I'd like to provide good quality content, even though some students may not like it because, like I said, it's group. Some people prefer the most basic things to learn. So yeah, because I think basic stuff is have a lot of material online, right? So I think that's if you are going to teach something, that's the opportunity you have to try to be different, to try to have a good lesson. Because otherwise, there are plenty of tutorials online, so they can just read it and reproduce it.
Yeah.
So I recently, so I'll tell you a funny story. So I recently interviewed at a college for a analytics interview, and that was one of the things that I was trying to convince them about. So they were like, it, teaching at academia is very different than training in industry, right? So that was the thing that they were trying to tell me, and then I was like, well, you know, teaching in academia can be difficult, but if you're not teaching something that's really relevant for the industry, what is the point of it? Like you're charging $20,000 just to teach some basic foundations, and then that's it. And the students go out and they have to spend more money doing boot camps and trying to find best mentors out there just so that they can upskill for things that's relevant to industry. So, what is the point of providing, like taking that $20,000 and then providing something that is really useless, right?
Yeah,
So,
agreed.
but yeah, I agree. Like even academia, they have to change. Like they don't care about industry, right? They only care about okay, and just teach basic foundations, and that's it. Just because we don't know ourselves what's happening in industry, right? So, well, what's your thoughts on that? Like, I don't know how it is there, like academia.
No, I agree. I think here in Brazil, I think it's the same, in my opinion. We have good universities, excellent university here in Brazil, actually, one of the best in Latin America, for example. But again, I cannot say about specific the graduation teaching about data science because I'm a biologist, right? So I didn't take these classes in my bachelor, so I cannot say anything about it. But for example, I took an MBA in the university about data science analytics in data science analytics, and I learned a lot of stuff because most professors opening the black box of the models. That I think that's amazing. That I think that's what you should do in order to truly understand the model. We need to open the black box, even because if they want to fine tune the model, they need to understand it properly, right? Uh, I have seen some students fine tuning like uh, parameters like random state and something. They need to learn about the parameters and so on.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think there is a gap between what's even in this course I enjoyed it, but yeah, it still is too technical. I like the advanced way of how they cheat, but it's not pretty connected to the industry. And I think we
Mhm.
have to fill this gap some way to leverage a good quality of a good institution, but
Mhm.
somehow link it to the industry needs and so on.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, like you said, it's like mandatory to record, to boot camps, and to spend more money somewhere else. Otherwise, not.
Yeah. No, that I agree. Okay. Any questions on the teaching end before I move on to more technical? Anurag or Rashid?
Anurag had some questions.
Yeah,
So I know
like
we have oil and gas questions. We haven't got to that that side yet.
yeah.
I'm
No,
just
like
taking the flow. So if you have any questions like on the teaching side, please go
yeah.
ahead.
So no, like uh, like you just mentioned about the gap between what's being taught and what's being used in the industry. So how someone can overcome that gap and be an effective what I say what how someone can be that effective to apply those things which are like needed in real world scenarios, like just like ML. Theoretical ML is taught very differently at the college, but the way things work in the industry are completely different than what is being taught. So how someone can overcome that gap and yeah, not get lost in their way.
So
Yeah,
kind of
that's a
before
good
you
question.
answer that, I just want to introduce you to Anurag because he wasn't there before. So yeah, so Anurag, he just graduated and he works as a MLE. And then he joined us to help out, reach out to more people and expand. So yeah, so that's Anurag. Just wanted to introduce you. Yeah.
It's nice to meet you, Anurag. And that's a really good question. And one of the gaps that I miss most, I would say, is not considering putting the model in production. I think most of the course I have taken during the graduation and this MBA, for example, and some other course as well, is just teach how to fit and predict and so on. But it instantiates a lot of preprocessor without being inside a pipeline, without considering how it's going to be used in production, without considering some data leakage issues as well. So I would say one approach that would help definitely is consider how this model is going to be used in production and to cheat some based approach to do it. And of course, every student needs to be, you know, every teaching about data science, we need to understand that it's an abstract issue, right? We learn a technique and can apply this technique in very different fields. It's not possible for a single teacher show how we're going to use linear regression in every possible field of the industry. There are so many fields, but the student need to be aware of, okay, I learned this and I can apply it in my situation, my project, and so on. So we need to instigate it more, but we can also use better examples, see, because, for example, Titanic, I don't think it's a good example to teach in the courses. I mean, if you want to show how the model works, okay, that's how most courses do it. But what's the purpose? We're creating a predictive model to predict just a single ship. So unless you are assuming the other ship has the same feature distributions, we can use this model. So um, you can use it for a diagnostic purpose. That's what academics do a lot. They have used regression. It's one for diagnostic purpose. That's one thing. But if you want to use it for as prediction to place in production, for example, yeah, we should do better on this regard.
Yeah. Hopefully that answers your question, Anurag. Yeah.
Yeah, got it.
Okay. So moving on to your second job, right? Because again, you did some interesting projects, and that's what I want to talk about, right? And this comes back to what you just mentioned to Anurag about not just focusing on just the modeling aspects, but also think about the different, there are different parts to the whole project, right? So there's automation, there's building, data pipelines, ML pipelines, and so on, right? So at this company, so I think it was a brewing company that you worked at, and you were automating pipelines for price engines, and
Oh,
also,
Bev Tech thing.
oh, it was EdTech, okay, yeah, and then you were building statistical models to identify price change points, and that is a project which is really difficult because I've tried it at Decathlon ourselves, and we had to outsource it for just because we couldn't get competitors' data, right? So do you want to tell us about those two projects?
Yeah, sure. So, BevTech, just to let you know, is a tech hub of the InBev. InBev is the largest brewery company on the planet, so it's really huge. And back then, they started e-commerce approach because the logistics are so good. They thought, okay, if we have a logistics for delivering beers to all the across all the country, so why don't you leverage these logistics to deliver all the products from other companies as well? So they started um, this idea. It's still ongoing, so apparently it was successful. And one of the challenge was, okay, how are going to establish the prices to enter to join this market of e-commerce? And that what I started when I started this company, the squad was just starting as well, revenue management. But I one of the things, the challenge that I got there was not about machine learning. Actually, it was about data engineering because the data was a little bit messy, and we are paying an API for another company to provide the prices all over the country. They have some way they collect this data of pricing, and it's a really large amount of data. So the first challenge was to deal with this really large amount of data and how to consume it. For example, we tried API, it's so many calls, so many data is not working. So we talked to them, to this company, to provide the data for us directly. We provide access to them to provide this data, to put this data in our store automatically every day, and that solved the issue. And we start creating some simple rule-based approach using PySpark to get the first quartile and apply some specific rules to not lose money. But we are trying to be more competitive because I just joined the market, and that's what he did back then. But I haven't applied any machine learning models back then, other than identified we needed to know, for example, for some particular case when we have a change in our, you know, in the price of our beers. We having this data. So we just created a machine learning model, like a statistical model actually, to identify change points. Okay, if the change point is like, it's real, if it's like constant after this change point, the price is like upper constantly or lower constantly, we can assume that we have some change in the price of the beers.
So they're like, because I remember, so we had someone from the pricing team who we invited to give us a quick overview of how they decide what to price the products. And one of the things that I really got fascinated by that he showed was calculus. So literally, he was doing calculus to decide what to, price the products. And one of the things that they were doing was elasticity, right? So they were doing price elasticity to decide on this factor, and that just blew me away. I'm like, there's literally something that I studied from my first, second year. People are using it, right? I never really got to work on that, but it's something that I really got interested in.
Yeah, it would be the next step for after the rule-based automation and making sure everything is running smoothly. That would be the next step for sure. But domains change over the time. So we got another domain priority change project. We delivered this automation, but we didn't go to, for example, price elasticity. That would be the next step.
So what were the tools? So what was the tech stack for automation that you guys were?
Again,
Mhm.
Databricks. This company used Databricks
Mhm.
together with PySpark. We are not even allowed to use pandas because we're going to uh, kill the cluster for sure because it's going to
Mhm.
load. It would load everything in the memory and so many data. So we needed to use PySpark. We have some code reviews for ensuring
Mhm.
it. And other than that, it was pure Python libraries and to manage this data.
So not
PySpark,
any, Mhm. Some, oh, sorry. So I was gonna say not any cloud services like AWS or GCP to store the data.
yeah, sure. They store it in Microsoft using Azure. Yeah.
Azure. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Pretty cool.
The previous company, Mastermind, was AWS.
Mm-hmm.
I'm web tech, mostly Azure. In my current company is Google, but actually my current company use all of them, but mostly GCP.
Mm-hmm. So is there any favorite one that you prefer, or like what do you think? You know.
I'm more used to GCP, so I would prefer GCP, but it's only about familiarity. Um, I didn't
Mm,
touch, even though I worked with AWS and Azure, I didn't touch too much. I didn't use many resources other than the storage. So I
yeah.
cannot say I didn't try, for example, the AI capabilities of both of
Uh-huh.
these cloud services, only GCP, Vertex AI.
So that's one thing that my friend he takes like certificates for all the different cloud services, so AWS and then Azure and GCP. And one thing he told me about this different cloud services is that the GCP one is really good, but AWS apparently they try and sell you each of the services even if you don't need it, right? So their thing is,
Yeah.
for one particular task they have this service, but then if you have a slightly different task, they won't modify the same service, but rather they would recommend you a different service. So you're
Mm.
ending up paying more, right? Versus like on GCP, yeah, you have one tool or one service that can do multiple things, and they're not selling you off multiple services for your use cases, right? You can technically customize it to get it work. So that's one
Good to know.
thing I've heard from him by doing these exams. But I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on that, or if you guys experienced that before.
You ask me or asking
Just
or asking everyone
three of
here?
all three of you actually.
Okay.
So, like I've only used GCP and AWS, but I have not really interacted with the sales team anytime. So no one sold me anything.
It's usually the directors, to the directors that they
Yeah.
try and. Cool. How
Yeah,
about
from
you?
my side, that like I said, that my experience relies on GCP, so I cannot say about the other cloud services.
Anurag? I know you just started out, but I don't know how much you guys rely on cloud services, but
Yeah, like I mostly interact with the AWS and Cloudflare.
Mhm.
Uh, I have used GCP, but just for that IAM service. So
Oh,
haven't got much to explore. But yeah, AWS is my go-to preference.
yeah.
Okay, I
Cool.
think we can come
Mhm.
to the oil and gas part.
Yeah, oil and gas part. Who wants to go first?
So,
Anurag, yeah, any questions?
can you just tell us about your oil and gas experience? Like, how is it different from any other industry? Uh, yeah, what kind of projects are there?
Okay. Yeah, there are a lot of different projects over there. So fortunately, like we have revenue to explore too many different topics, data science topics inside the company, from classical statistics to computer vision, LLMs, and so on. So it truly depends of the area inside the company that we are working on. But one of the I would say, I believe that one of the most common activity is about failure detection. It can be used in classical machine learning model. It can be used in computer vision to identify some scratches, some things in the tools. But most of the model relies on is somehow connected to the tools, to the assets of the company, because This process of, for example, extracting oil, it's extremely costly. That's how they make hundreds of thousands of dollars in a few hours during this process. And they cannot afford to move, to allocate specialized people, specialized equipment to a particular geographical region and fails the process. So that's how there is a term for it. It's called NPT, non-productive time, and they try to avoid it as much as possible.
So, how do these companies like track their data? Like, do they have sensors on their machines, something like that? And how is it stored in databases?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, for example, let me uh, tell a little bit about one of the projects that I have worked in the past year. Uh, we have the system and the cable and the tool to perform the activity inside the well, right? And this cable is a technological cable, and it provides a two-way telemetry signal. So it records everything around it. For example, pressure, temperature, shock, and so on. So we have like real-time data. It's like a time series because like elapsed time since the beginning of the job. So 1 second, 2 second, 3 seconds, and so on. Of course, we have missing data in this process, but we have this recording, and since once the job is finalized, for example, this sensor data is sent to the software. The engineer send it to a particular software, then it's going to be uploaded in some cloud or some database. It depends. The company I work for currently, they have a lot of ways to store the data. They store the data in the cloud. They store the data in on-premises service database, MySQL, for example. It really depends on the field, on the area inside the company that you're working on. Once you have this data, we can just work on analyzing and providing this data. So I'll provide the model, for example. This in this company we use DataQ. I'm not sure if you have heard of it. It's
No.
kind of a Databricks, but it's not real Databricks. It's like a centralized platform to grab the data, analyze the data, transform the data, and to build a model, deploy the model. It's like a all-in-one platform that enables linking to GCP storage or Azure or whatever. It enables to connect to MySQL database. So we can connect to whatever we want, and then you apply all transformations or work you have done. You can create your Python scripts or virtual environments. All of that you can link to a GitHub repository, for example, any repository that you're using, and then it's easily used for um, deploying the model. So I'm not sure about the pricing of this platform, but the company is highly incentivizing everyone to use this platform because I think it's easier for the managers to see what's going on, to track the project. There's so many projects going on. So um, yeah.
Got it. Anurag, you had some questions.
Yeah. So like just you mentioned about very different technologies are being used in the industry, like LLM, classical ML and stuff. So I'm more curious to about learning how reinforcement learning is being used in ONG industry, because uh, that's the thing I never heard of, like how it's being used and how it can change the way things are being done in the ONG industry. That's what I, yeah.
Yeah, that's a question that I don't think I'm going to be able to answer because I really don't know. Um, I haven't heard about any project using reinforcement learning. Perhaps some RAG applications to collect feedback from the users use it, but I haven't worked directly on them, so I'm not sure. Perhaps there is, but I haven't worked with it, so I don't know. Have you ever worked with reinforcement learning in some of your
Uh,
projects?
no, not much actually. I've just did some experiments like for the using it for cyberpunk and stuff, but not more than that.
So that's nice. That would be nice. I need to try it someday.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think those kind of like projects that uses reinforcement learning and to put into prod, that's a big challenge. And also, like you lose interpretation part aspects of any projects that you do. So I think in industry, people really have to convince the directors or whoever before they actually try and adapt it and figure out how it can be put into production. And the main thing is once you put it into production, how do you monitor even like deep learning, right? Deep learning models when you put into production, it's a different ball game, right? And the main aspect comes from interpretation and explanation. So I think people think about twice before they actually go to complicated stuff if they can get it. And that's one thing I've learned about oil and gas. So I live in a city which is actually oil and gas hub. And here companies they don't like advanced ML stuff. And again, kind of can talk about it because he works in that field, but at least here, that's what I've experienced. People don't like advanced, like people in the sense that people who are at the top management level, they don't like advanced ML stuff. They just want to stick to nice old linear regressions, and that's it. As long as it's making them money, that's all they care about. So I had someone from oil and gas industry who came to me for freelancing, and that's what he was saying. He was like, he built linear regression models, and the company's been using it for more than 5 years, and they don't want to change, right? So it's pretty funny that.
Yeah, I believe that one of the things that I have observed for most stakeholders I've got so far is that they are really concerned about interpretability of the model. They really want to understand why we are showing that prediction for the particular tool. Why are we showing it's not healthy or it's healthy? So yeah, they care about it.
So funnily, I've also seen the same trend in finance as well. So one of my friends worked in Goldman Sachs, and there they only stick to linear regression, and they code it from scratch in their own programming language, and it's all they use.
Yeah, I think that's everything is a hype. Like new stuff, when the advanced stuff that comes out, it's just a hype that sticks around for specific use cases. But yeah, when it comes to industry, good old classical models.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why, I try and talk about the different projects, so that, whoever's watching the podcast, at least they can try and catch, oh, there are these different kind of projects that they have never thought about, and they can put it on their portfolio, right? Like price analysis, churn. Um, these kind of projects, they don't think about it like freshers, right? They always want to go to the hype and, just do things that's in trend right now. But they don't really see, okay, these are projects that's actually holding value in industry, right? So
Hmm.
that's the reason why I try and talk about it in detail as to, okay, you've done this project, tell us more about it. Yeah.
So today, if someone is like, let's say, is freshly graduated from college, let's say from a computer science degree or a data science degree, or let's say two cases. One is like any tech related degree, and something non-tech, maybe some other branch of education. How can they enter data science today?
Okay.
Can you give like some tips on like these two people? One is from a computer science background and one is not.
Okay, let's say let's consider the ones that has a technical background. So I think that's pretty good because most companies, although they don't require to strictly required to have some background in technology, most of them prefer, right? A technical background, but computer science, statistics, engineering, and anything like that. So I think that I would suggest to work in portfolio most in portfolio for these people. And of course, they need to work portfolio and perhaps join some hackathons. They need to expose themselves to the industry. They can use LinkedIn, for example, and so on. I would say that is that because the difference between the technical people with someone who like me with like is biologist the formation, where the other ones without the technical background they need to get the basis yet. I think it's really important to get the basis before jumping into more complicated stuff like LLMs and so on. I don't think I really try to, for example, for my students, I really try to tell about the Pareto approach, like 20% of your effort. No, how can I say the Pareto work? It's like 20% of effort is responsible for 80% of your achievement, something. I think
Yeah.
that's something like that, right? So, because I don't recommend to focus so much in a particular thing and keep studying the same topic all over again. But I think you can get the basics of everything. Then you can the people can start trying some approach, right? Because they need to have some fun as well. Otherwise, they're not going to keep studying because it's boring. So they need to get the basics and they need to try some models and some in particular topics they are interested in. That I would say that. Yeah, the huge difference is the basics. So someone from with a technical background have some base knowledge that's important for understanding how a computer works, how programming language works, and so on. The other one needs to acquire this knowledge somehow, at least the basics. I wouldn't really recommend to go deeper. Otherwise, they're going to give up because so many things and they're not wanting to have another graduation on that. So they just need to get the basics and then they can kind of go the same path. That that's what I think at least.
Yeah. So going back to the oil and gas sector, actually. So what are some unique skills, that's required? Like, do you need to have some knowledge of oil and gas to work in the field, or so when you're working on a project, do you feel like, oh, there's so much stuff that I don't understand, and you have to spend some time doing a research about it, or see what people have done in that specific sector? Let's say, the pipeline defect detection, for example, right?
Yeah. So yeah, again, just re-emphasizing that I'm talking about my own experience. I'm not sure if I'm anyhow
Mhm.
representative of other people in the oil and gas field or field, but I'm most of my colleagues actually are not from a different background like me, like biology. They are almost all engineers in the oil and gas field. And 99%, I think even more, it's all engineers. So for me, I haven't acquired any knowledge prior to joining the company about oil and gas. My knowledge relied on data science skills, data science approach, data science models, and that's what my interview was based on, technical stuff about data science, mainly ops. Uh, and then I believe they thought that okay, if they know how to apply these techniques, they can easily transpose, to use these techniques inside the oil and gas, as far as he is able to to learn fast and to understand the business.
Mhm.
But I'm not gonna lie, I have struggled a lot to understand specifics about oil and gas. I'm still struggling for some areas, but the most of the project I've worked is kind of like we need to avoid tool failure. Sometimes,
Mhm.
of course, it's really good to know about the whole process. It helps for feature engineering, for example. But we have frequently meetings with the stakeholders, then they always provide some tips about fit engineering, what feature that they think is important, why. They explain the math intuitions and some physical intuitions as well. So we just incorporate the suggestion to the model, but mostly like understanding, okay, I need to predict using that, given this context, that's not, without going to the specifics, given this broad context, I want to avoid any kind of failure in these tools. And for computer vision problem, for example, pretty straightforward as well. Technically speaking, we need to have different tools, and every tool have a pattern, some labels of what is good, what is not good. Then we need to create a model to detect it efficiently, right? So, yeah.
Do you hire experts to because for the computer vision models, for example, do you like guys hires experts to label the images? Like experts in the sense that people who actually come from that background.
So currently, yes, we're going to have. I'm not sure how they're going to. We just started on another project on computer vision, and that's my. I think that's my first project about this kind of computer vision task in the company. I'm not sure yet if they are going to label it or not, because for sure the purpose, for example, is to facilitate for the engineers to see a tool and to easily spot if there is an issue or not. And we're going to create a model for these tools, a POC, an example. So let's see how it goes. And objectives, for example, they take a picture, they send it to upload to the model. The model is going to make the prediction, and they're going to compare if it's actually accurate or not in this first trials, right? If they agree with the model, it's okay. Otherwise, they're going to send it to the supervisor, and that is going to contact us to change the model and to provide this feedback of the model. But yeah, I just talking around, and I'm not sure yet if in this specific project, not sure if they're going to annotate it or not. For now, this next week included, we are going to do it. I'm going to work in some annotation of some pictures, but I'm not sure if I'm going to be responsible for it in the long term. Let's
Yeah,
wait for the response.
yeah. No, you're lucky actually that you ended up in oil and gas because it's not easy. I think that you can be a data scientist in the retail industry with no background, but to be a data scientist in oil and gas industry, it's not easy actually, because they only want to hire people from that background, right? And I see that here happening a lot. Like here, there's so many oil and gas companies, and I've applied to so many times, right? I even went for interviews, and these are physicists and mathematicians who are at the management level, but still they don't want to hire people coming from the same background. Like they just want people from that oil and gas sector. Right? So,
Okay.
um, what do you think about
Yeah.
future? Dubai is investing heavy in AI, right? And data is the new oil, apparently, right?
Yeah.
And say that oil and gas won't be as big as it is today, and in the future, and that's the reason why Dubai is moving towards AI. What do you think about it? Any thoughts on that?
I haven't thought about it, but I believe that this kind of sector is going to remain for at least for the next year, couple. I mean, I believe it's going to be here and it's going to be profitable for a long time. But
Mm,
yeah, that's what I believe, and I think that, for example, my current company, they are investing a lot in AI. So they're still facing some discussions about using generative AI. They're not using yet. We started applying some model, but just POC. We're not using real data with the Gen AI. They are really concerned about privacy, even though we have some safety certificates, like say, like let's say from the GCP cloud, from the cloud services. Uh, but it's a huge investment. It's a really huge investment in AI. Mainly now with Gen AI, LLMs, they have created groups to work on it strongly, and so therefore I believe they're going to. It's going to be different from now on. I mean, it's going to use more tech than before, I think I have a feeling that the company is like valuing the data assets even more. It's recognizing importance, giving out also giving the deliveries of the data science team. They start to recognize, okay, it's important to collect data because there is so many manual work from the engineers, right? They need the engineers need to be willing to collect the data, to upload the data to the system. And currently, we have the biggest challenge for me, and I think for everyone, for every data science working for this kind of data, is the scarcity of the data. We have so many different systems. There is so many manual work, missing data, and yeah, it's pretty challenging because sometimes I have wrong data as well, like my stipend data, wrong units. It's meters, not kind of, it's pretty challenging in this regard. But as far as we are, we are involved in data science and also involved in teaching the stakeholders, the engineers, educating them about the necessity of the data and what it brings of value to the company. And I think it's going to be better in the future.
Mhm. Yeah. Any questions, Anurag? Because I know you have a few more questions.
Yeah, I had a question uh in the daily your work routine, the tools you're utilizing. So have you faced any challenge during your work that the problem you are solving is it cannot be easily solved with the existing tools you're using. So for that reason, you have to use some of specialized software or something, and you wonder there must be something open source tool to be existed to solve this, and it can be easily integrated with your existing tool that you're using.
Okay. I think I have to. You mean not software not available or a technique not available?
What a technique I mean, suppose for the programming tools you're using Python, but there must be some process which cannot be done easily with existing tools in Python.
Okay,
So
got it.
yeah, for
Yeah.
that stuff you have to use some else specializing software itself, not a language, something like framework. So yeah.
No, I don't think I have faced this particular situation. I have faced situations like uh in the curriculum, the project I was talking about. One of the project actually I didn't talk about this one. Um, performing given the lack of label data, we couldn't develop any supervised approach, but still they really wanted to provide some kind of tweaks to the tool. So I have create a very custom way approach to tackle this. In the previous company, about the forecasting issue, they needed a hierarchical for forecast. Back then, there wasn't a library, at least a good working library to perform hierarchical forecast. So I tried a new package as well. It was very challenging, but I haven't faced this particular situation. Like for example, I cannot use Python for some reason. The challenge I face, like, there is no library, there is no way to apply the model we're expecting to apply, but usually I, Python handled my my task so far.
Got it. Any questions, Ashit?
One last question for me, from me. Do you plan to go back to teaching full time anytime?
To go back to teaching. Yeah, sure, sure. I really enjoy teaching. That's a passion that I have, uh, and I think that's why I stay so long in the academy because I enjoy it very much. Um, Actually, I'm trying to start some initiatives about education, but given the time, it's kind of hard. But I'm willing to do it, and just a curiosity. I'll have when I was in my master's in 2014, uh, I created a channel to teach about data, um, data no, to teach about neuroscience, basics of neuroscience. That was my topic of study back then. And I created a YouTube channel and I uploaded some videos teaching it. Then I stopped the channel completely. And after like more than 10 years, currently I have almost 30,000 subscribers. The channel is completely stopped, it's died, and somehow it got some subscribers along the along the years. But yeah, but if I'm going to teach, I will not, for example, for sure not going to teach anything about biology anymore because lack of time and lack of interest. I would like to teach about data science. That's what I do and what I like to do.
So any like concrete plans to go back to teaching? Like, do you plan to go back to teaching full time, or like not
No,
plans?
no, no. I mean, I haven't thought about it because I think it'll be amazing for real, but not sure if I would have a good salary at first, like at the first in the first moment, go at working as a full teacher. So yes, we need to pay the bills. So I mean, it depends a lot of the situation. So, but that's my passion. But that's why I haven't tackled this like a full time because I need to organize myself. So my idea is, for example, other than continue working the company that work as a startup in the ed tech startup, I I would like to record some videos on YouTube. That's at least the first plan. Let's see how it feels again because it's been a long time that I don't record and don't edit a video. Uh, Editing the video is very time consuming as well. And I need to go back again because I just forgot any little skills that I had about editing the video. So
I think it's hard to leave academia, right? I mean, industry, right? Once you're in industry.
yes,
The thing with the teaching, I found that is that yeah, you can go back to the teaching, but once you leave industry, the trends that's happening in the field, like you lose track of it. Because now you're so much into teaching that okay, you're gonna be teaching something that's valuable, but then you're not applying the stuff, the new stuff that's coming
yeah,
out. So you don't
that's
work on it, right?
yeah, to sign up for
So
the coin.
very different.
That's
Yeah,
right. Do you
yeah.
guys want to work full time teaching?
So
Start.
like the plan for me is like I would quit corporate sometime, I think next year. And so I'll still not teach full time, but like I still teach part time, so I'll continue that.
Yeah. Yeah, for part time, not sure for sure. I would like to take some initiatives about it.
It's same like with me. Continue working. Uh, because I mean, I don't know. I like corporate jobs because I haven't had any issues with it. I mean, I don't feel like it's a job. I've been very blessed and lucky to for all my jobs so far. Like any job that I've worked in so far, that none of the jobs felt like a job actually. It really felt
Oh,
like
that's nice.
it's just a thing that I'm doing, which is I'm enjoying, right? I don't really feel like a job and the pressure actually. So yeah, I think I'm gonna continue no matter how old I am. I'm gonna still continue working in industry, but teaching, yeah, teaching is something I really enjoy because I've been doing that since a very long time, since grad school or way before
Yes.
that. I think part
And
time, yeah, that's something I like to give back to the community. Yeah.
yeah, and we learn so much, right, when you're teaching as well. So it's a good way to consolidate, to learn new stuff, and also to consolidate the knowledge that we have acquired so far. Otherwise, we just can forgive some things, and it's really uh, grateful. I'm really grateful when I have a student that has completed some course, has completed some delivery, and they they came to me to thank me for the teaching and so on. So that's really fulfilling.
Yeah, I think it's more than the money because money, yeah, you make more money working full time than you would in teaching. But I think it's very rewarding when the person that you thought they end up getting, some jobs or something just because you have taught them in a right way or showed them the direction.
Yeah.
Cool. I
Okay.
think that's
Thank
a wrap for today. Thank you very much, Cainã, again for being with us. And yeah, it was lovely talking with you and yeah, learning so much stuff from you. Thanks
Yeah,
again.
likewise. I learned so much from you as well. Thank you for this invitation again. Very nice
Thanks, guys.
Yeah,
talking to you.
thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
nice.
You. Yeah. Bye, guys.
Yeah, bye.